This is Gallup's Call to Coach, show number 2, recorded on June 28th, 2013. Gallup brings you Call to Coach, a resource for those who want to help others understand their strengths and learn how to use them. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations everywhere. Welcome, and I'm John. If you have questions, comments, or contributions for the show, we do have a live chat room. We've been talking that up a little bit. Right below the window, if you're in the live show, there is a chat room available. You can just sign in with a handle and give us your information. If you have questions about the show, you can put them in there as we go. If you are listening to the recorded version and you have questions, you can email them to us right after the show, coaching@gallup.com. We'll have a slide up at the end of the broadcast as well if you want to write that down. And don't forget to visit us at Gallup, the Gallup Strengths Center. That's just Gallup Strengths Center, all one word, gallupstrengthscenter.com, for all your coaching, resources, and training needs. I'd like to introduce you to our host, Jeremy Petrosini. Jeremy, of course, works as a leadership and development consultant here with Gallup on the riverfront. Beautiful day here, Jeremy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I want to dive right in, and really excited that we're continuing this broadcast. I know there were right over 1,000 listeners on the last one of these we did a few weeks back. And one of the names that was brought up on that call from one of our external coaches when we talked about mentorship and things that have helped him personally grow is he alluded to Curt Liesveld, who has been with Gallup over the last 14 years, kind of joined Gallup right in that window where StrengthsFinder was on the cusp of being something that we were ready to launch. And so it's a real joy to have Curt with us today. You go to the Gallup Strengths Center site. What's really exciting about the Clifton StrengthsFinder assessment is you'll see that we've got close to 9 million people. So about 8.9 million individuals have completed StrengthsFinder over the years that we've had it out there. So, Curt, excited to have you with us today. You are, if not the best, one of our best learning and design consultants at Gallup. You have developed so much over the years of what everybody on the call, if they're a fan of strengths. Again, the idea of this call is saying call to coach. So, most listeners out there are people that really feel like there's something innate within them that wants to empower them to want to help other people. So we're really excited you're here with us today. Again, you've had your hand and thumbprint on curriculum design, some of the books that have been published, and so it's really fun for the coaches out there to hear expertise from you. So I want to dive right in, Curt, to your story. So one of the things we want to do every time with the coaches we interview, whether they're Gallup coaches or external coaches, one of the commonalities again is that there's something innate within you that you feel the sense that you've been called to coach. And so I know your background, Curt, from an education standpoint, are in the fields of sociology, psychology, theology. It's almost kind of that sense of heart, mind, soul. You've studied what makes people tick. And so I'd love for you to unpack that a little bit for us of, what is it for you in your life, in your journey, in your story that really compelled you to feel called to coach?
Well, I think you're right, Jeremy. And by the way, it's great to be here, Jeremy and Jim, and anybody else who's out there listening. It's an honor to be able to kind of talk with you. I have an intense interest in the nature of human beings. One of my themes is I'm a learner, and one of the things that I spent the last 14 years of my life studying is people. All kinds of people, and using the Clifton StrengthsFinder as a tool to really aid me in the study. And so I'm interested in the nature of people, and certainly I'm also interested in the way people grow. I just love to think about human growth and how you take raw potential and make it something better and more. And so my education has helped me to kind of explain human growth. My sociological degree helped me understand that part of what shapes people are the groups that we're a part of, the families, the communities, the organizations. Part of what helps people grow is just understanding the psychology of a person, who someone really is. And then I have a theological background, and so I have a kind of another perspective, a spiritual perspective, if you will, about what contributes to who we become. So I just love the intersection of all three of those sciences, if you will, and so I think that's really at the core of why I have really, especially the last 14 years, invested myself in helping people grow.
Yeah, no, that's great, Curt, because I think even that last piece you hit on, that that spiritual component of simply that word spirit meaning breath or life, right? So when you inspire somebody, I think that's what we are able to see happen so much in our role. I know the external coaches out there, we use different terminology for it, but you sit with someone, you let them see their top 5, and it's like the lights go on. They're alive for maybe the first time. Talk a little bit about that. I know you even just got off a coaching call here a few minutes ago. I know one of your own personal missions is, as you and I have worked together over the last 8 years that I've been with Gallup, but one of the things that I've been really inspired by you and your story is just as you've talked about the fact that if every day what you do best is really coaching coaches. So it's not just coaching individuals, but you've wanted to give as much time as you can to coaching coaches. So talk about that a little bit, about some of the impact there and ways that you've kind of been able to inspire or help people to kind of see the lights come on for their coaching business, their coaching expertise, or kind of even hobby for some of these people out there.
Well, I think part of it is I love being a coach. I've spent the last 14 years of my life coaching people, and it energizes me. I can be on the phone with 7 or 8 people during the day, and at the end of the day, I'm not drained. I'm kind of energized, and I think that's what happens when you get to a role that really fits who you are. And so I certainly felt like I've done that. I think I realized that I'm not going to be around forever here. And so I certainly am interested in kind of, I really believe in the impact that this strengths-based approach to coaching can have.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that there are more people out there who are doing this the right way. And so, and I don't know if there's any better audience, to tell you the truth, than people who are coaches. I love to teach coaches. I love to coach coaches because they're people, I think they're kind of like me. They want to help people. So these are people who are open to learning, to doing what's necessary to help other people grow. So I really, and I'm not just saying this, I love being around other coaches. It inspires me. And so if I can help create a few more strengths coaches around the world, that's really the kind of legacy that I'd like to leave.
So give us a nugget or a story here, Curt. So you obviously over the years you've been able to develop coaches within Gallup client partners that we have, helping them live this out day to day. Again, inspire and help people discover their strengths within their organizations. And obviously, back in January, we then launched a whole new approach to try to impact the world. So again, part of the mission that we have, that you hear Jim Clifton, our chairman CEO, talk a lot about, is we want to get to a point here shortly where we've got 1 million people, 1 million coaches globally that are committed to really focusing on the strengths of people, right? So with that, again, you've been able to then come alongside external coaches. Give us a story of one of those coaches that you've been able to talk to that again, maybe just some nuggets that you were able to give them that change the way that they coach, that would be beneficial to the other coaches listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have low context, so I don't have a great memory. So I'm going to take a recent one. The more recent, the better with me, because I sometimes forget. But there's a story about a person by the name of Kim, and I met Kim first probably about a year ago at a great manager program that we were leading and teaching. And she came. She was really a manager in a financial kind of world. She managed people who were accountants, and she was very good at that. And so she got a lot of benefit from that great manager program. She really came to understand what great managers really do. And after that, she was so smitten by this strengths-based approach that she enrolled in one of our accelerated coaching programs. It just happened last May. Well, anyway, at this intense accelerated program, it's a 4.5 deep dive into this strengths-based coaching. She became even more convinced that she wanted to spend more of her time using her natural abilities to nurture people, and really was inspired and kind of even coached by some of the participants in our program to say, you really need to pursue this. She went home, applied for a very important HR role in her organization, and got the job. And I talked to her after the fact, and she just really feels like she is exactly in the place, to some degree, she was meant to be. And so I think that's a great story of how sometimes people, when they know who they are, they're a little it enables them to get to a place that better fits who they are. And we know that when people get in the right place, doing what they do best, they can do more of that, they can do it longer, and I think tremendous growth and impact is possible. And that certainly, I know is going to be the case for Kim.
Yeah, that's fun. So it's not only Kim's passion to want to coach others, help them find their niche, but for her personally, finding a way, which you said, internal HR within the organization she's at, to just do what she does best every day. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's where it starts. I think it starts with the person, and I think once a person kind of discovers the value and the power of this kind of self-understanding of your own strengths, I think it becomes kind of contagious. They want other people to experience the same thing.
Yeah, I know one of the things, Curt, as you and I have co-led some of these courses, again, it's been fun to watch even a lot of external coaches who are now part of this feel the freedom, the validation from Gallup to go and continue to make impact the way they are. It's been fun to watch kind of the networks that they've begun to create with each other. So talk a little bit about that, because I know you've been close to some of that as well.
Yeah, I have been so impressed with the independent coaches out there who are already using this instrument and have integrated into their practice. These are very smart, creative people, and they have come and they have really been very grateful for the kind of resources that we're now sharing with anybody who will come to learn. And so they're excited about this. The thing that I've noticed about one of the things that happens in these programs is there is a kind of a community of coaches that is kind of being built. In the sessions, people have been saying, okay, let's get together and kind of share some best practice ideas. And so there's a real sense of community and camaraderie. And I think one of the downsides of being an independent coach is that it can be kind of lonely at times. You kind of feel like you're all alone out there, and there's a real sense of collegiality that I saw kind of evolving and emerging in some of these coaching programs, and I really believe it's what we're trying to kind of create with these calls and with the kind of program that we have.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. So I think that's one of the things that individuals, whether they're working in for-profit, nonprofit, that sense of connection is really making a huge difference, and I know it's been a huge plus for them. So, Curt, talk a little bit too. I know in those courses I introduce you oftentimes, and I know you kind of shy away from it, but I always say that you're the closest thing we've got to a Don Clifton walking the halls these days. So I know you had some interaction with Don when you first started at Gallup. Again, Don's vision and dream was just to see, the strengths of people unleashed. And so, I want to ask you kind of a two-part question here. First, part of it that I know what Don was committed to is people gaining a sense of mastery. What is it that they do better than anybody else? He would say, if you lock somebody in a room with 10,000 other people and the only way out was to have a contest that you could win, what would that contest be? So I know from our coaches a lot, there's that sense of mastery. How do I become a coach like Curt? How do I become a coach like a Jackie Merritt who's continued to just impact leaders around the world for Gallup? What does that look like? How quickly does mastery come?
I wish I could say that it came overnight, but it really doesn't. For me, it took like I say, I've been at this for 14 years, and I think it probably took me a good 3 or 4 years of practice, of repetition, of doing this. And I'm not sure that that's the same for everybody. I might be a little bit slow, but I really think it takes some time for people for these concepts to internalize. And I'm not just talking about the themes. I think the strengths concept, that the whole idea that people get better by capitalizing on what they've got, as opposed to this idea that people get better by working on what they're not. I think that's a concept that's in all of us, and it dies hard, and we have to kind of keep kind of beating that down. So it takes some time and repetitions and I think for me, one of my themes is I'm analytical. I needed to look at a lot of StrengthsFinder reports. I needed to hear and be involved in the conversations of a lot of people. And when I started doing that, I started seeing patterns emerge in the data of the StrengthsFinder and the words that people are using. And that's when this started really becoming fun to me, when I started seeing how these themes interact in people. I call it looking at themes in living color. That's when this came alive. But I'm a little concerned about people who are out there who thinks they're masters of this just simply because they've read one of our books. I think it takes a lot more than that to have the kind of the depth and the expertise of applying this in people's lives.
Yeah, no, and I think you're absolutely right. I think there's been a craving from a lot of people I've interacted with over the years of, we've got the books, there's some networks out there, but people are trying to figure out what's true, what's accurate, what's not. I know we get questions all the time of, from businesses or even consultants, can you use selection for hiring? And we quickly say, no, it's a development tool. We've got different tools for selection. And so I think you're absolutely right. The tools that we're now beginning to create that you've had a big part of, again, both with even the coaching toolkit that's now available, that's never been out there. A lot of people, especially in school systems, nonprofits who have said, I can't afford the coaching course, this at least gives them some of those nuggets of how to work toward mastery. Talk a little bit, one of the things I know that you say a lot in all of our training, and it's in the curriculum, that to me I've seen a big aha inspirational light go on for coaches, is when you talk about this concept from transforming from being into doing. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think I think we have to care equally about who people are and what people do. Being and doing, it's not like a choice between one or the other. Being is about the nature of the person. Doing is about what needs to be accomplished. And so I think the StrengthsFinder really helps us get some clarity about who a person is, and that's not an easy thing to discover. Who you are is kind of buried deep within you. It's internal and invisible, and I think what the StrengthsFinder does is that it scientifically, objectively measures the shape of who you are by nature. And once we know that, we know. I don't think your StrengthsFinder themes tell you what you are going to do, but I think it tells how you're going to do whatever you do. And when we get clarity around how we're going to be most successful, then we can start to figure out where we can use that, how we can use that. So it's taking the talent that you have and transforming it into a strength where it can be productively applied.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and so let's jump back then to Don. I know there's a lot of people on again who would long for the opportunity to have sat with Don, to ask him questions, to gain insight. Again, reading a lot of our content material, it's got Don's thumbprint all over it. But share some stories from the inspiration that you got, even in your early days. StrengthsFinder didn't yet exist in its current form. You were able to jump on in those early days of research. Again, help us craft a lot of the training that's evolved over the years. But give us some little Don insights or stories or tips or tricks that you were able to kind of pick up from his legacy that he wanted, again, 1 million plus coaches to carry to the world.
Yeah, it's I actually got to know Don Clifton through my wife. We moved to Lincoln, Nebraska. She got a job at a company called Selection Research Incorporated while I was going to graduate school, and we had no idea what it was. But it really, I think, is probably the reason we moved. I thought the reason we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska was to go to graduate school. But what I realized today is we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska for me and my wife to meet Don Clifton and to be exposed to this movement. And it has really kind of transformed our lives. So I got to know him more from a distance at first. I would go to gatherings, and that's when Selection Research was a smaller company before they acquired the Gallup organization. And what I noticed about Don right away is he could see the best in everybody. He knew what people are good at. He was great at selecting very talented people. I mean, Don Clifton hired Marcus Buckingham. He saw great talent and really was able to kind of help to nurture and grow that talent. So he really, it was called Selection Research, the company, and their first work was really selection, helping companies find the best person for a job, and they were very good at that. We still do that kind of work. Yep. But what I know about Don is that he was kind of disappointed sometimes in selection work. You say yes to one person, you say no to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I think it started him thinking, I wonder how we can say not just yes to one person, no to everybody else. How can we help not just find the best person, but find the best in each person? Mm. I think that was the impetus for the creation of the StrengthsFinder. My wife, I asked her the other night if she remembered any kind of Don's sayings, and one of the things that Don often said was how many people went to their grave not knowing what their strengths were.
Yeah.
You think about that. I mean, I started thinking about that. What happens when we don't reach our human capacity? In other words, what happens when I don't do what I'm supposed to do? When I don't contribute what I have to contribute? What that means is that somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack. Someone else is going to have to do what they probably don't do very well. And it becomes a vicious cycle downward when we don't kind of really understand and capitalize on our human potential. But what happens when we help people discover what they have to offer, what they have to contribute, and they get to do that, it also sets other people free to do what they are. And I think that's really what a strengths-based organization is. That's what a strengths-based family is. That's what a strengths-based community is, when more and more each people is getting to be who they are and doing more of what they do best. And that is Don Clifton all over, that thought, that discovery, and the movement that he really created.
Yeah, no, that story too, Curt, of, again, just that inspiration, or how coaches especially need to look at people differently, with that comment of just thinking about the number of people that go to their graves and never realize what they amount to. I think, too, of Tim Hodges, who's one of our consultants, researchers, who would talk about when he was a grad student riding the car with Don, and Don would slow down when he'd go by cemeteries. It's kind of weird. He didn't know if it was a respectful thing or what the point was, but he said Don would almost choke up and then make comments to say how many of these people never had somebody come alongside them to help them discover what they do best. And I think you're absolutely right, that there's so much opportunity here for any of us who, again, feel that sense of call to coach, to just view the world, to view humanity through a different lens, in a way that we say, can we bring hope to somebody, regardless whether they're just starting out in their career right out of school, or they're a young kid still in school, or they're somebody who's been in their career for 30-plus years? Do we have the opportunity to inspire them in a new way?
Yeah, I mean, I think the StrengthsFinder is a little bit like when I was a kid. I remember in comic books they had these advertisements where you could get glasses that would give you X-ray vision. You could see through walls. And I think to some degree the StrengthsFinder is like that. It enables us to look within people and see the good, the right, and the strong in people. And I don't think people always are able to kind of understand themselves in a vacuum, in a social vacuum, or an emotional vacuum, or an intellectual vacuum. And that's what coaches bring. They bring an environment where other people can make discoveries. And I think that happens best within the context of relationship. And that's what I think coaches can offer other people.
Yeah, that's great. So, Curt, I want to make sure we give everybody listening kind of a tip or trick that they can take back even today. I know there's people listening in who are about to jump on a coaching call themselves and coach a client or individual that they've been coming alongside. One of the things I think that you've really brought to every coach, internal, external, is this whole idea of pairs, of thinking how themes work together. I know even when I was initially interviewing with Gallup, I had heard kind of this misnomer myth of you have to have responsibility in your top 5 to work for Gallup. And very quickly, again, I was reminded it's not a selection instrument. We need to hire responsible people. But the coach who I was talking to actually helped me see how my maximizer, my commitment to excellence, and my belief, my commitment that if I say yes, I mean yes, really can look like responsibility. So I know you've been tweeting out there. You're kind of at CSF, that Clifton StrengthsFinder CFF guy. You've been tweeting these pairs, how themes work together. Talk a little bit about that. Give people some nuggets of how they can begin to utilize that with the individuals they're coaching.
Yeah, I really think this is the next step of the strengths movement. I think the first step is just to learn the vocabulary of these themes, what each theme means. But in reality, they don't really exist in isolation from each other. And I think the next step is to really get clear about the way that these themes kind of interact with each other and really influence and affect each other. And so I really have as you mentioned, kind of had a project, a leadership project, where I wrote the short kind of definitions for all 561 possible pairs of themes. In fact, it's part of the curriculum. I've got this book called Paired Up here. It's part of the coaching for individual performance. They're all in there. It's a kind of a usable tool. But I find that's the way I coach. I'm always thinking about the logic of a profile, the paradox of a profile. And again, this is one of these things that I don't think you do overnight. I think I could do it because I have spent 14 years thinking about it, but I think it's other people can master this given the tools and the investment of time and money and energy that it takes to kind of get that. But I really think it's what takes coaching to the next level. It takes it beyond kind of these kind of one-word labels and really helps to, I call it the chemistry of themes.
So give us an example of that, whether it's from a recent coaching call or one from a class that you've led. Give us two themes and show us kind of what you mean by how these interact in a new way.
I think maybe one of the most there are kind of likely and unlikely pairs, and the two themes that I think are often most unlikely fit together is activator and deliberative. I just talked to a person that had activator and deliberative in her top 5. You would think that if one's high, usually when one's high, the other one's low. But here's kind of what I wrote for that pair. When a person has activator and deliberative, I understand and believe equally that haste makes waste and that the early bird gets the worm. That's really what so this person has this sense of urgency and caution at the same time. And that's a unique combination, and not many people have that. And so when you've got something like that, you start to think about, how does that give me an advantage? How can I capitalize on that? And in your top 5 themes, there are 10 different pairs. So I think it really takes coaching beyond these kind of singular definitions and starts to wed and kind of mingle these things together, and that's the way they really exist in people.
Yeah, I know one of the examples that you can share with people is even kind of taking one theme of your top 5 or your top 10, putting it in the center of kind of a wheel, and then looking at that connection. And I think it's, again, you just begin to see the lights go on for you as an individual or the people you're coaching for how those themes interact and how it kind of creates. My wife's an interior designer, so I always say it's like colors, yellow and blue put together makes green. So it can look and feel different, but you're using other themes to get there.
And I think it helps people understand and expand their versatility. They have more options than they really realize sometimes. And I think that's more sophisticated kind of use of this instrument and the kind of knowledge we have.
Yeah, I want to see if Jim. I know he's been kind of monitoring questions that have been popping in. I want to see just again with those that are live if we can address some of their questions. And again, from a time-conscious standpoint, we'll wrap up at here in a few minutes, and then we can even continue on here, Curt, with some additional Q&A that we have.
Okay.
But Jim, there's some key questions that have popped up that would be good for.
Yeah, I think one of the main questions that came in, what was Don's top 5? And so we have that here: significance, futuristic, individualization, focus, and maximizer. So that was one of the questions that come in. If you are in chat, we'll stay around for a few minutes after the show to answer those. So if you didn't get your questions in, you can put them in chat right now. Somebody asked, Curt, can your strengths change over time? And maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is probably one of the most frequent questions that I get asked. And I think what I say typically is that once you become an adult, and that can be kind of a fluid time, anywhere between 60 and 25, I think there's a lot of kind of consistency between who you are and who you'll become, kind of continuity. Having said that, I think there are some things that do change over time. I think what you know changes. You get education that expands your knowledge. Your skill changes because of your experience and practice. The other thing that I think changes in people is sometimes their values change. I think a lot of times when people have their first child, if they're married, I think there's a kind of a new priority, a new value that changes people. But I really see, and this is just my observation, at the core of who someone is, I think there's something enduring and consistent about that. Now, people don't always like that when I say that. They want there to be the option. If I can change, I can be anything I want to be. What I say to people is you really can't probably be anything you want to be, but you can probably get a whole lot better at who you are. It's really using the foundation of who you are and kind of getting more of and better at that.
All right, very good. We want to thank Donna in Olympia, Washington for that question. And, as we do these shows, we'll make chat available to you as well. Some great information out there. Of course, we can't read every single question that comes in via chat. Just not possible to get them all in, but there's a lot of you out there, and we thank you for joining us today. We've kind of come to the conclusion, at least of the recorded portion of the live show. We're going to stay around for a few extra minutes and kind of interact with you in chat. That will be left off the recorded version. Of course, the only way to get that information in the post show is to come and join us live. You're going to want to watch for future announcements about that coming up. And so we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of the resources we have available out at the Gallup Strengths Center. Real easy, just GallupStrengthsCenter.com. You can send us your questions or comments at coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this show and all the past ones. We'll make those available out at coaching.gallup.com. That'll kind of be the center hub for a while of all the activity we do around Called to Coach. And we thank you for joining us. Curt, great to have you on the show. And I know you're going to stay around for just a few minutes for folks, and we'll pipe a few more questions into it. Jerry, what can you tell us about what's coming up next?
Yeah, we're really excited that this is not just a one and done sort of idea, but as coaches have asked, for just information nuggets that we throw out there. Right now through the summer, we're committing to continue to do these about every 3 weeks. So if you aren't already signed up for the kind of email blasts that go out, you can do that through the Gallup Strengths Center site. There's a blog link on there that many of you are already a part of. And so you'll see in the coming weeks here, we'll continue to do these. Our next interview is actually going to be with another external coach, Debbie Kratke, who really amazing story. Curt, you alluded to the fact that when people kind of don't have the opportunity to discover what they do best, just how they're really missing out on their lives and the impact that they could have. Deb's got a phenomenal story, actually works for Tarrant County down in Texas, doing some training for them, has been able to help develop through the Department of Labor a program where she's transitioned over the last 30 years of kind of working with people that have been homeless or in poverty, helping them get back on their feet, find jobs, find careers, really transformational stories. And recently she's been, with the Department of Labor, she's been working with people that have been released from prison, have all sorts of barriers with finding jobs, and she's able to sit with them, take them through StrengthsFinder, and let them discover the fact that they have unique things that they do better than anybody else. And so it's really cool. I think people are going to love to hear more from Debbie here in a few weeks. Again, if you're not part of that email blast, go ahead and sign up. We'll get you information on that. But her story is going to be great to just hear as an external coach how she's helping people do what they do best. And again, just last nugget there, there's all sorts of news that we've been blasting out with our global workplace study that just came out that still today, there's 70% of people in their jobs aren't engaged. They're just showing up to work. And so there's huge opportunity, not just in situations like Debbie's, but for all of us to help people do what they do best. So Curt, again, thanks. Jim, thanks. And you can continue on for the post show here. We'll continue on with questions.
You bet.
Thanks,
Stay
guys.
around for the post show. Your questions and comments live from chat. Everybody have a great weekend or a great week wherever you're at. Thanks for joining us.